We're continuing to build our own personal visual language today, this time by exploring lines and dots through different drawing techniques. Hey Trailblazer, it's Kelly. Welcome back to Crooked Path Studios, where healing isn't linear and neither is art. And actually today we are going to be focusing on some linear things, drawing, and using lines and dots. This creative practice and the next one will explore two mindful drawing activities that you can do anywhere, whether you're waiting in the doctor's office or in bed on a flare day. We'll practice what I call quilt drawing and then slow drawing. In addition to drawing and painting and printmaking, I'm also a modern quilter. And rather than hand quilt my quilts, I do free motion quilting. Free motion quilting is basically line drawing with thread across the quilt top. You move the quilt around in all directions to stitch the patterns all over the quilt. And to learn these patterns and be able to do them on my quilting machine, I draw them. I have notebooks and sketchbooks filled with what I call quilt drawings. And I have started using these drawings in my collage and altered books and other mixed media practices. So I invite you to draw along with me. I'm going to show you a few of my go-to favorites that create texture through line. We're going to do them on paper. So let's do our check-in first and get warmed up. For a check-in today, we're going to need some paper. I'm just using my sketchbook. You're going to need a pencil, any kind of pencil. This is an ebony pencil, so it's going to make a darker mark. And this is a 2H pencil, so it'll make a lighter mark. But any pencil that you have works fine. You know, it's one of these little mechanical kind of pencils is perfect as well. You'll need something that you can easily push around on the paper with a pencil. So nothing too heavy, right? Just something that'll slide. And you'll need 3 small objects that you can drop onto your paper. I'm just going to use these 3 shells that I just found on my shelf. And you'll need something that has some kind of shape to it. This is a little piece of a card that I cut up all my greeting cards that I get, and I save parts of them to use later in my art. And I've had this sitting on my desk for a while because I think it's just hilarious and it makes me very happy when I see it. So I'm going to use this today. So just something that has any shape to it. It could be round, it could be square, rectangle, triangle, could be an organic shape, right? Something that doesn't have all these hard edges. And you'll need a scrap piece of paper that you can cut up. This is just from a Uline catalog, so I don't really care what happens to it. And and this is another shape that I'm going to drop. So this is, I actually don't know what this is, but it's an interesting shape. And if you have a brush marker, that would be great. Otherwise, a marker that you can maybe medium size, that you can press down or go lighter, and we're going to explore what happens to line when we do that. But we're going to start with some dots and dashes. So whichever pencil that you want to use, go ahead and grab that, and we're just going to start with dots and see what our pencil will do with dots. And the dots are very faint, but if I sort of bang it in a different direction, it gives me some dashes. So let's see what happens if I make some dashes. And maybe we're just going to do several of these in a row. So we're just going to warm up a little bit. And there's some dashes. I like these dashes. All right. And that's got some energy and movement to it. I kind of like that. All right, so now we're going to actually put our object on our paper, and we're going to use our pencil, and we're going to push the object around. We want to keep it on our paper. And I've never done this with something that had a big hole in the middle of it, so I guess I could do that. Huh, interesting. Change pencils here. See what happens with the heavier, darker pencil. All right, it's almost like a little game. Make sure that it stays on your paper, right? I don't know, maybe I'm going to date myself here, but when I was a kid, I always had a spirograph, and I loved that spirograph. So I'm just going to do some spirograph-like circles. That was really fun. Okay. All right. See, anything that's going to get you laughing at yourself and warmed up and loose and free and, you know, yeah, laughing is good. So the next thing we're going to try is just repeating a shape. So it could be a letter. So if you know how to write cursive, you could do a bunch of S's. Just keep them going. So these are just S's. Well, they make kind of an interesting pattern though. Look at that. Also, I'm going to turn my paper here. Maybe we're going to just do some loops, some L's. I've come to love this shape just by doing this kind of repeated activity. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drop these three things onto our paper. And I might grab a pen just so you, because the pencils are starting to merge together, just so you guys can see what's going on. And I'm just going to drop it and drop it and drop it and drop it. And then we're just going to trace the outlines of these. These two are really close together. So, interesting. All right, this one. Well, I'm going to start with this bit in the middle, which is kind of interesting. Very small little shape. Oh, it almost looks like a mushroom. It does look like a mushroom. Interesting. All right, let's see. Collected these on one of my many beach trips. Whoops. All right, there we go. Let's get some shapes on there. That's kind of cool. The next one we're gonna do, I might flip this over this way. You don't have to, but just so you guys can kind of see what's going on. Take your scrap piece of paper, and you can either cut or tear this. Now, when I ripped this out of the Uline catalog, it made this very interesting edge. And that's what we want to do, is just cut it, so cut the paper so there's an interesting edge to it. And I'm going to make this, actually I'm not, I'm just going to leave this like it is and then move it around. All right, and then take your pencil, and we just want to, and you can do these as fast or slow or gesturally as you want. Look at how that line changed, because I just turned my pencil a little bit. Interesting. Oh, okay. That did too. All right. Now let's see. And then when we move, that's pretty interesting. All right, let's try this. Well, let's try this one. Start down here. I don't know why I got to start on the left. It doesn't really matter, but I don't know. My brain is saying, start on the left. We'll listen to the brain today for a little while anyway. I'm going to continue on down this side. So, and yeah. So this is more of an organic shape, right? Line, because it doesn't have a hard edge. And this is more of a geometric line because it does have a hard edge. And I like that contrast there. So let's see, I want to put another one in here. Maybe we want to go this way. We're going to do that. Flip it over. Okay. We'll start over here again. We haven't seen the grass in a while because we had that huge snowstorm, and there's still probably about 6 inches of snow covered in ice out there. So, okay, I'm going to flip my paper. And we're going to do that. Interesting. All right. So we're just noticing the line, and I'm doing this kind of fast. You could do it slow. I don't know why I wanted to do it fast, but I'm going to listen to my body today, and it said, go fast. So just notice the line, notice the shape that it's making. I am really finding this contrast the most interesting and wondering, you know, how I might add to that. There we go. Let's practice thick and thin. So we've already noticed here some of these are thinner, some of these are thicker, depending on how we hold our pencil. With a brush pen or even a paintbrush, and sometimes even a good Sharpie marker, I'll pull that out, you can get thin lines and then thick lines, and thin lines and then thick lines, and thin lines and then thick lines, and we can just vary them based on how we're holding the pencil or pen or brush or whatever it happens to be. So just explore how your pen, marker, brush, whatever you're using, is going to make fat or thin lines based on the pressure that you put on it. I am going to now take our little shape, and we're going to trace around it. I might do that down here. We'll trace around it. Whee! And now what we want to do is see about making some marks in the negative space. So this is where the, whatever your shape was, where my catnip party time shape was. So this is going to be the positive space, and then outside the line is the negative space. And let's see what kind of mark we can make to fill that negative space. I am just making some scribbly things, and I'm not going into our pencil line, so I'm going to call that line positive space 2. And so I'm just filling in this bit here with these little scribbly marks. And what it does too. So you can see by filling in around the edge, it has made this pop up. Just notice what this very dense group of lines is doing, and the energy that it's bringing to the paper. So that's our check-in for today. It really is a warm-up. It's just getting things moving and getting us moving and getting some playfulness to come out before we start our creative practice today. And that has been a lot of fun for me. Hope it was fun for you. So just make a curve and then come back up like a teardrop, but don't close it. And then come back down, making another teardrop, and don't close it. And then just follow that curve up again. And come down and close that side just by following the shape. And you can make another line. Just remember that wood grain, the lines are not even. They're all different widths. Come over and you can close this. Now you can see this is just a knot in the wood grain, right? So follow that line again. Maybe make it skinnier in some places. We're going to put another knot up here. We're going to make our teardrop shape and don't close it. Make another teardrop shape and come back out. Ooh, put one here too. There we go. Make these really skinny. And so your eye is really just going to fill that in as a wood grain. And you just keep making those same curvy lines. And you can make your knots the teardrop shape, or you can make them round. And that's all it is a bunch of curves and some leaf or arc shapes, teardrop shapes. And for effervescent, this one is just lines, and they don't have to be perfectly straight. They can be a little wonky, but don't make them as curvy as this one. We're just gonna make some straightish kind of lines. And then we're going to they could cross each other if you want them to, especially to fill up some of these big gaps. Like that, that's fine. And then you're going to go in and just draw circles over the lines. And draw your circles in different sizes. And just think about a soda or champagne, or something that's kind of bubbly. And how those bubbles go up a glass when you fill it up. Now I want a drink. So it's just circles. So this is literally lines and dots. A circle can be a dot. Literally just lines and dots. And we're just filling things in, putting them where we feel like they need to go. And if you draw some off of the edge like that, it makes it feel like this continues off the paper, that it's not totally confined here. And it makes it a little more three-dimensional, because your eye is going to continue up that way. Right, so that is effervescence, lines, circles. Very simple. This one's good because these will fit in any space. So you're just gonna do, you're making leaves. So you do your teardrop shape, or two arcs facing each other, and you put a line down the middle. And if you put them side by side like this, they make a great way to fill in some space. And then you can decorate them any way you want. Right. And I'll just show, let's say this is our space, or the S curves. So this is what it looks like when they're separate and there's some space between them. And when I teach this in quilting, people say it looks like those toe separators. Or you can make them really tight and have your S's touch each other. As you do these quilt drawings, see what happens when the movement leads and your pencil follows. And, sometimes these practices, it's really just about staying with something a little longer than usual so that you get into the flow. And this is also how we build pattern and texture with line. So this is one way to build your personal visual language and send messages to your vagus nerve that everything's okay. So let's do our reflection, and then the check-in is going to check out, is going to give us a chance to practice some of these. Which of these patterns really held your attention while you were doing it? Like maybe you lost track of time. So losing track of time is a sure sign that you are in a flow state, which is excellent for our nerves and our creativity. As a checkout for today, I invite you to trace your hand on a piece of paper. It doesn't have to be your whole hand, it could just be part of your hand. I don't think my whole hand is going to fit in my sketchbook today, but part of your hand. Trace around it, and then I invite you to use any of the motifs that we learned today in quilt drawing, or any other similar Zentangle type motifs that you already know or want to try, and just fill up your hand with these different motifs.
When I first got sick, my hands remembered these patterns because they had become body memory for me. Even when my brain couldn't remember how to do my job, my hands had their own memory.
And there's no plan here, just doodle the spaces any way that you want.
NeuroArts research now shows that doodling enhances memory and focus, and it helps you process information and experiences. Doodling helped me rebuild my memory at a time when I was getting lost in the grocery store and couldn't remember how to do my job or how to drive someplace. Doodling gave me some distance and reflection space to begin thinking and processing and moving forward. And it reminded me that our bodies have their own memory outside of our brains, outside of cognition.
You can spend as much time as you like working on this, and you can also come back to it whenever you want. This is a really great creative practice to take with you because it's in your sketchbook, and that usually fits in a bag or a purse. And you only need a pencil or a pen to work on it. Remember, doing these slow, repeated movements and patterns is one of the best ways to reset your vagus nerve. Thanks for joining me today. If you're a part of my Substack community, then I invite you to post your work in the chat. And if you're not part of the Substack community, consider joining us over on Substack. Remember, the chat is not a critique space because that's not what we do here. And instead, it's a share and reflect space, right? Because creating community is one way we support each other and build social connections despite our chronic illness. So until next time, stay on your crooked path.